some angels, both arch and not, felt that humankind was inherently evil and wicked. They felt that humans should either lose their free will or humans should be exterminated because they were evil and because they defiled pure goodness and because humans defied God's will and light. Blasphemously, some humans even denounced God. These disgusted angels spread their discontent. Even some of the especially powerful angels, some of the archangels, were so revolted, disgusted by the lowly, sinful ways of God's pets, his humans. The angels had witnessed Adam and Eve easily fall to sin. Adam and Eve succumbed to temptation. First, they succumbed to desire to know what secrets the tree of knowledge of good and evil held. Adam and Eve wondered, and they desired to know what mystery existed within the tree and its fruits, within its deep roots, and within its apples. Adam and Eve could not resist their inner desire. They could not resist that which tempted them so much, despite knowing that doing so, that they would lose their immortality, that they would become mortal. They would no longer live forever. They would grow old, and they would eventually die. For God had decreed it so. Should Adam or Eve ever eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they would grow old and die, foregoing God's gift to live forever. And yet Adam and Eve, with their free will, disobeyed God, and they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And with the knowledge of evil, Adam and Eve learned of physical pleasures, and they learned both about and how to sin. Adam and Eve ultimately succumbed to lust. They chose desires and libertine pleasures over procreation as God ordained. The apple of sin corrupted Adam and Eve, such that they fell to the lure of the sin of lust. It was this original sin that triggered the angels, that saw themselves as God's most devout and faithful. These angels saw themselves as the purest of all beings, and these angels saw Adam and Eve's original sin as absolute proof of humankind's weakness and their flaws. There was one particularly influential and extraordinarily powerful archangel, one of the first high archangels, the archangel named Lucifer. Lucifer was incensed by the incessantly selfish, self-serving vermin that were called humans. Lucifer used Adam and Eve's sinning against God in the Garden of Eden to showcase the self-serving, selfish ways of God's pets and the humans, and that free will was a bad idea. Adam and Eve were no more than evil, bad, fornicating animals, declared Lucifer. God gave Lucifer his name, meaning the morning star, to represent Lucifer's inner light burning bright and intense as a star. Unfortunately, Lucifer's vaunted status in heaven afforded him an uncommon attitude. Lucifer was proud of his beauty, brilliance, stature, and authority. Lucifer was ruthlessly devout to what he saw was good and just and pure. Lucifer's faith was seen by some archangels as zealous, even extremist. But Lucifer was committed to his beliefs. Lucifer was not a kind angel. Lucifer wanted justice inflicted on all sinners. And Lucifer believed that all humankind were sinners. As such, all humans should be smited and removed from existence entirely. As an aside, God forgives humans that seek forgiveness of their sins, albeit God's forgiveness is contingent on their sincerity and on their true faith in God and in Jesus. Well, Lucifer, however, refused to ever forgive humankind for betraying God and the light, despite God ordaining it so. Lucifer was not happy with his own creator, the divine and the all-powerful God. Lucifer concluded that he, Lucifer, may well be a better ruler of heaven than God himself. And so, Lucifer sowed discontent and sedition against God and heaven, so that the rules that govern and give humans free will would be changed, or that humans would be removed entirely from existence. Lucifer spread his word and his cause to other angels, high and low, and he found receptive ears throughout heaven. Lucifer found fellow angels that abhorred humankind's propensity to sin. Lucifer swayed 6 other archangels and their supporting lesser angels to join his cause. All said, Lucifer convinced a legion of angels and 6 archangels to oppose God's rules in heaven. Lucifer had convinced Mammon, Leviathan, Asmodeus, Beelzebub, Belial, and Belphegor, all to join him. United, there were in total 7 archangels that opposed God, that sought themselves to rule in heaven. And there were 7 archangels that stood by God, heaven, and God's rule. These purest angels that opposed God, both angels and archangels alike, all of them, they saw humans as blights on God's otherwise perfect and pure creations. United in cause, the discontented, judgmental angels saw their only recourse was to forcibly seize control of heaven. Lucifer led a great war, waging it against heaven. The hateful angels were determined to change the very rules. They would change the rules to the way they wanted the rules to be, not the way God had defined them to be. The angels decided they must wage war against and even kill their fellow angels. These dark angels revolted against heaven and God, intending to change the rules that govern humankind. They sought to change the rules that gave humans free will, or remove every single human entirely from existence. These powerful angels saw humans as blights on God's otherwise perfect and pure creations. These discontented, hateful angels believed that humankind was inherently wicked and evil, and they believed that humans should either lose their free will or they should be exterminated. The divine war raged on, with battles raging everywhere in the heavens and on earth. Angels rose up to the challenge. The angels solemnly faced the moral conflict of fighting their own fellow angels. And the angels had to embrace that in the course of defending heaven, the angels would be forced to march against enemies that were once allies and friends. The angels may well, quite likely, could be forced to maim and even kill other angels, all to protect heaven and to protect righteousness. Angels fought one another, blood and gore, took the lives of many angels. Angels lamented their fallen. Things were dire. Celestial horrors filled the heavens as the angels fell and were slain, as they sacrificed everything for their beliefs, for God, for faith, and for heaven. It cannot be said enough how horrific the carnage was in heaven. It cannot be stressed enough the loss and the sorrow felt within heaven itself. As angels fought to their end, they fought until their fight was over, at least until they could fight no more. The tide eventually turned, despite the horrendous carnage and horror. The righteous angels, empowered by God, eventually defeated Lucifer, and they stopped his fellow revolting angels and archangels. God damned Lucifer, and God damned his gang of angels to never return to heaven, to no longer be beautiful or heavenly, to be disfigured and wickedly ugly. The fallen angels could no longer appear in the image of God. They would be disfigured and distorted and nasty. They would be horrific and terrifying to behold. Their image would reflect their fallen, corrupt, evil souls. God recognized that his child Lucifer was flawed. But God also saw Lucifer as one of his creations. God loved all of his creations, and so God granted Lucifer a new title. Lucifer would be known as Satan, the devil, and he would rule a parallel plane of existence that would be called hell. As Satan, Lucifer was branded the beast, and Lucifer would bear the mark of the beast. The number 666 was burned into his flesh, forever marking Lucifer as Satan, the beast of hell. In hell, Lucifer would have total control and total authority. Lucifer would be, in his mind, his own god, ruling within his hell, all arrogantly in defiance of God. But Lucifer and his seditionists could never return to heaven. Lucifer would be the warden to the prison called hell. Lucifer himself was also damned to hell, never to rejoin heaven, per God's judgment for Lucifer's insurrection against heaven and against God. God surmised that Lucifer literally got what he wanted, that Lucifer would rule, albeit in hell and not in heaven, and that Lucifer would be able to torture and to torment humans that sinned, that God had damned likewise to hell.